On Animal Outtakes, they are about the size of a dog, and there's only one place these deers can be found.
Really one of the success stories of the Endangered Species Act.
These primates use their tails as a way to communicate, but I think this one prefers to give kisses.
It's okay, baby. It's okay. Oh, sweat. It'll take the blood out of her neck. Oh, goodness gracious.
He's tickling. And in one culture, this dog breed signifies health and happiness.
Akitas are a fantastic breed. They're very loyal. You can't go wrong with an Akita.
This and much more is straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. Hello and welcome to Animal Outtakes. I'm Marcia Panucci and this is my trusted friend, Zeus. You have likely seen a deer before. They're found in just about every state. But have you seen the smallest species of deer? In fact, you will only find this deer in one small area, the Florida Keys.
White-tailed deer is the most common deer you will find here in the United States, and you could say this is its distant cousin, the key deer. One way to tell the white-tailed apart from the key deer? Their size. Key deer are no bigger than a medium-sized dog, and these deers are only found here in the lower Keys of Florida.
We entered a period where the world started getting a little warmer, the glaciers melted, and sea levels began to rise. As that happened, essentially key deer and the other wildlife that had been residents of all bigger, larger South Florida became trapped down here, and the longer they stayed, the more they were separated from their mainland cousins. And so some species are actually separate subspecies. Now and they look distinctly different, like the key deer. They've been separate from their cousins on the mainland for thousands of years. So it was really the rising and fall of different sea levels that allowed animals, including the key deer, to migrate into unexplored territory, and then those that stayed behind and are left in this, what's left is this little skinny chain of islands down here, have been so separate from their cousins on the mainland that they do look different. Our raccoons look different down here. So we have different looking marsh rabbits, a subspecies of marsh rabbits down here. So it's really kind of interesting that geology and the history of the earth kind of shaped what kind of wildlife we have down here.
Early settlers caused the key deer population to drop to near extinction until the National Key Deer Refuge was set up.
It was established in 1957 basically to protect the key deer and other species that lived here. Folks were seeing that there was this, the chance that key deer were virtually going to go extinct. There was extensive hunting, poaching, and there was only 25 to 50 deer left. And some folks got together, some Boy Scouts, some wildlife organizations. It was really the work of a lot of organized citizens that got together and persuaded politicians to put aside the National Key Deer Refuge. So now it's one of 560 plus federal national wildlife refuges. We've come a long way since then, and key deer they're really one of the success stories of the Endangered Species Act. Interesting refuge here in that the whole community is wrapped up within the boundaries of the National Key Deer Refuge, which is different from a lot of national wildlife refuges where you'll go through a gate and you've entered the National Wildlife Refuge. Here the community is wrapped up within the whole key deer refuge, and so people interact with key deer on a daily basis. We have some precautions in place that are meant to protect the key deer and help keep them wild. So one of the main things that we ask is that visitors and residents don't feed the key deer. And that's really important to us. It helps keep them wild. Once key deer start to associate people with food, then they start getting into trouble, and there's a number of different ways that can happen. If they're fed from cars along roadsides, they start to hang out along roadsides, and probably automobile accidents are the biggest cause of mortality to key deer every year. If they start to associate people with food, they hang out in neighborhoods more often. They get attacked by dogs. They may get entangled in people's trash. And their willingness to kind of tolerate people also makes them targets for poaching sometimes. Really highly encourage people to just let wildlife be wild, especially with the key deer, and resist that temptation to feed them, because they will push the limits and come up to you and approach for food. So at that point, just take photographs, be appreciative of the fact that we have these marvelous creatures here, but please don't feed them.
Back in the 1950s, there were only about 24 key deer. Since the establishment of the National Key Deer Refuge and the Endangered Species Act, their numbers are now around 1,000. Like the key deer, our next animal can only be found in one area of the world, and it too is an island. But you'd be traveling halfway around the world to see this primate in the wild. They live in the rainforests on the island of Madagascar.
It's okay, baby. It's okay. Oh, Sweat. We'll take the blood out of her neck. Oh, goodness gracious.
He's tickling.
Yeah.
Oh, how
This is a cross between a red ruff lemur and a black and white lemur. His name's Axel. We got him from somebody in South Florida. Somebody let somebody get into another pen, and somebody crossed over, and someone bred with someone they shouldn't have bred with, so we ended up with a tricolor lemur. Now they do breed tricolor lemurs, and they do sell them as pets. They are a class 3 animal. People can't obtain them. They live in the wild. They live up in the trees, and they're only from Madagascar, so they're an arboreal animal. And they live on fruits, mainly is their diet, a lot of fruits. You guys got a lot of fruit cocktails. So as you can tell, he likes popsicles and he likes yogurt.
Okay.
We also have a zoological diet that we feed him to keep him on a staple too, but he gets treats like yogurt and bananas and ice cream, and he's a lot of fun. He just wants to run and play. They're full of energy.
Yes, he does. Well, no, he wants to give me a manicure.
And he's not even 6 months old yet.
And he's really chomping away. Now, how old will he get? What is the life expectancy?
15, 18 years.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And when we have them as a pet, what do we do with them other than love them, hug them, and play with them?
Well, I believe that these animals require a lot. First of all, they have to have natural sunlight. It's very important to them. So they do need an outdoor enclosure that they can play with a lot of stimulation, like hula hoops and beach balls, hammocks, toys, buckets, chunks of ice, things that they can play with. You can more than welcome keep them with yourself and keep them inside with you. That's why he has his diaper on. We diaper trained him from a baby because they don't really potty train, and in the wild they stink on stuff to mark their territory. So it's just a trait. It isn't a pet for just anybody. So it isn't. It's something that you really have to spend a lot of time with. It's not a, I'm going to get this and it's going to be like a dog, because it's not. It requires a lot of attention.
Now, you have a leash, and I know that that is for control.
Yes, that's so he doesn't get down and get scared and tree, and then you'd have to climb up there and get him.
With you. But
they live in big troops in the wild, up in the trees. These guys live in big nests when they have babies. They don't hang on them like the ringtail lemurs, you'll notice, hang on their moms or their human co-parts. But they live in nests, they live way up in the trees. They're a little bit different. Their disposition is amazing. They're very, very amazing
how
animals.
intelligent are they?
Highly intelligent. Now he loves fruits. He sees you have a grape there, and that's like their favorite thing. It's like ice cream to a kid. They're never going to turn it down, even before dinner or after dinner, anything like that. They like apples, and they like grapes. You want to play? You want to chew on an apple? Look what she's got an apple.
This is a pretty big piece.
Yeah, he'll just chew on it. Look, and he'll hold it. Now you can kind of see how his hands are.
Hold it? Do you want me to hold it?
And they have the sides of their face have a lot of elasticity. So they'll stick it in the side. You see how he chews? He puts it over in the side of his mouth.
He's saying, huh.
He'll stick the whole thing over in his cheek and just chew it a little bit at a time. You see the cuticle beds in there? There you go. And then they have these little chubby fingertips that are real sticky, so it helps them hold on to stuff. But they got little nails in there when he grips in. It's pretty cool. Another thing they can do is they can take their fingers, unlike other monkeys, and they can touch it to their thumb like that. And they can do that, which is really, really awesome about the lemurs. They can actually touch their fingers together. Look at that pretty little hand. You see it? Oh, he's grabbing the camera.
Now, on top of the fact that he is just gorgeous, Troy, I mean, just a beauty. Oh, yes. He has this gorgeous tail.
He does. He has a beautiful tail.
Is it just for show?
That and balance. So it's like a big, they like to wave them around. They hold them at different angles for different things that they're talking about, whatever they're doing in the troop. But they don't hold on to things. It's not like where they can wrap it around. But they use it for balance. They stabilize. They'll move it if they sit. They'll curl it. They'll use it. They also use it to rub some odors on and wave it around at the ladies, for sure.
Well, he's going to be a very handsome guy for the ladies.
He is. He's going to be a handsome guy, and he will be
Goodness, I got a lemur kiss.
neutered.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. The face is just absolutely so beautiful, so gorgeous markings, but his eyes, they're as warm as can be.
They're beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah, they are just, there's no anger, there's no frustration here, there's just a lot of love, lemur love. This gorgeous girl isn't just a pretty face. This breed of dog is extremely loyal to their owners and can be territorial. We'll learn more about this protector breed next. Many active duty servicemen and women face a dilemma as they prepare for deployment. Who will look after their canine companion until they return? Dante's Den provides temporary boarding for their dogs as they serve. We honor the trust placed in us by members of the armed forces by giving their furry friends loving care, spacious dens, on-site veterinary care, and plenty of room to run and play. For more information, go to dantesden.org or call 844-DANTES-DEN.
People have asked me what it'll cost to restore all the corals back to the way they remember. But I have to ask them, what will it cost if we don't do anything?
The crested caracara is listed in Florida as threatened. Their numbers have declined due to many factors, including illegal hunting. Help support efforts to eliminate the threat of illegal hunting, not just for birds of prey such as the caracara, but for all wildlife. Always alert authorities if you see people hunting illegally, or if you see wildlife parts such as feathers being sold illegally.
Welcome back. Akitas are a member of the working group, breeds that are happiest when they have a job to do. And like German Shepherds, Akitas are known for being protective. Most would say it comes naturally to this species of dog.
Hi, this is Jewel. She's an Akita, and she's 5 years old. They're fantastic protectors. Very, very loyal to their owner, to their pack. They're silent. They don't bark a lot. You could actually have an Akita, 130-pound Akita in an apartment complex, and then they won't bark. If they bark, then you know there's a problem. They jump like a cat, almost kind of straight up in the air when they jump. They're very quiet and they're very aloof. They don't really give off a warning. That's why people like them. For protection dogs, they're silent. They're very confident in what they do.
Their soft, fluffy fur makes them fans of cold weather. But it's an Akita's tail that is their trademark. Their tails come up and actually curl over its back.
These dogs, they can get to be 135 pounds, and they think they're a little kitten. They like to come up and sit on your lap, and no matter how big they are, I have a 135-pound male at home, and he just wants to cuddle on the couch, and he doesn't understand that you're almost the size of me. They're very stubborn. So if they don't want to do something, you kind of have to coerce them into doing it.
Being a protection breed, Akitas demand training and thrive on it. Paul says training an Akita is just like training any other dog. But with Akitas, you need to stay on it.
You want to be in charge of the walk. So you want to show the dog that you're walking her or him instead of the other way around, because they're going to come out and bolt out the door. You don't want a 135-pound dog thinking that they're in charge of the walk. So in theory, even though she could pull you or me around, in their mind, once they come out for a walk and we're hooked up, I'm in charge or you're in charge. You don't want the dog to ever think that they are in charge of the walk. It's a bond. I mean, and when you train the dog and you're verbally, especially the larger dogs, when it's a good girl, you know, you give them a good pat on the side, and it's a loving, comforting, almost a security blanket for the dog. When you physically manipulate the dog and show them affection, I think it goes a lot farther than a treat. She's a good girl. She's a good baby. Yeah, she is. She's a good baby.
The Akita is seen as a national treasure in Japan. At one time, only the imperial family could own them. In Japan, Akitas signify health, happiness, and a long life.
Talk about loyalty? Hachiko is one of the most famous Akitas. The story says in 1923, this Akita would walk to and from the train station every day with his owner to see him off to work. One day, the owner didn't come home. He had passed away at work. But Hachiko wasn't going to give up, and he showed up every day for the next 9 years.
They are an invasive species here in the United States. You can still find them, though, roaming around South Florida. So, would these green reptiles make a good pet? The answer might surprise you.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-685-6422, 800-685-6422.
People have these reptiles as pets, but should you? Zeus, I think this is a first. Out of all of the animals Dr. Don has shown us, the green iguana is one that he thinks should really remain wild. So Dr. Don, this is one of the pets that we see is an alluring pet for people. Is it the best pet?
No.
Oh.
Not by far. As a matter of fact, if you think about, do your research first always, right? Always do your research first. Where do they come from? They come from like the rainforests of Central and South America. So to keep them happy, to keep them alive, to keep their immune system going, to keep them alive and looking good, you have to make a rainforest. They have to live in a rainforest. So if you can imagine a nice hot, humid summer day where you walk outside and you start sweating, that's where they want to live, which is hard to make indoors if you live in New York City, right? Yeah. They also grow. They grow from nose to butt with a tail attached, the ear smacking, to around 6 feet long, and they can have an attitude. They live about 20 years too if you take care of them. Having said that, we're in southern Florida, and I used to see a ton of these things that 13-year-old kids would get, and they get nutritional secondary hyperparathyroidism, they get rubber jaw, they get broken legs, pathological fractures. They need to be kept outside. To keep one inside, very difficult to do. Trying to make ultraviolet lights, temperature, humidity, and an appropriate diet.
Now this tail is a weapon because it's spiny.
Especially when you get one around 6 foot long.
Ooh, what do we think we have here? Is it a male or a female?
I think we have a young male iguana. Okay. And he was a rescue. He was living indoors and his color was horrible and he was thin and scrunchy looking. And this is after about 3 weeks of living outdoors. He had a pool cage in the full sun that he could walk in the sun, walk in the shade, walk in the sun, walk in the shade.
Now what does he eat? He's in captivity now and it's probably the best place for him at this point. What's he eating?
This guy is going after a baby spring mix and about once a week a little bit of dog food, canned dog food put on top so he gets a little bit extra protein and the calcium and the stuff that they need to grow.
So there is an allure, but it's not the perfect pet.
No, it's like somebody having a pet ocelot. Oh, they're pretty, so what? They're not something that you really want to have as a pet.
But they're pretty to look at.
Pretty to look at.
The green iguana may not be the right kind of reptile for the beginner, but Dr. Don says if you want a lizard, start with a bearded dragon or a leopard gecko. These are species that are easier to care for and will remain smaller in size.
We'll be right back.
Every dog deserves a lifelong loving home. Dante's Den provides a pristine, comfortable haven for dogs that have been abandoned or surrendered by their owners. Every pup in our Joyful Dogs adoption program receives lots of love and attention, is properly immunized, spayed or neutered, and is in good health. Find your new furry best friend at Dante's Den. For more information, go to dantesden.org or call 844-DANTES-DEN.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and three-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-307-2040 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-307-2040 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-307-2040.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $15 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand with no surprises and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 3 times in a row. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today. Call 800-457-2317. Go online or visit a Target store today.
This week, we're joined by Dr. Benson and Dr. Ellen Glassman, who's going to talk to us about vaccinations, a very important topic. So Sugar is here with us at Dante's Den, and one of the things that we require, Dr. Glassman, is that they have all of their vaccinations brought up to date. So what are they?
Okay, well, there's lots of vaccinations. By law, required pretty much in every state and every county of the country that I know of, is a rabies vaccine. And that's because rabies is a deadly virus for people and pets. So that's why it's a law, because a person can literally get exposed from a cat or a dog or a wildlife, and we can't do much about the wildlife, but if a cat or a dog is unvaccinated for rabies and gets it and exposes you mostly by saliva, the virus is in the saliva, so if you get bitten, of course, people think of, oh, the mad, rabid, foaming dog. That's true, they actually do foam because it's a paralytic disease, and eventually their throat gets paralyzed, they can't swallow, so the saliva will just drool out of their mouth. But that's where most of the virus is, so even if the pet theoretically licked you with a wound, you could get the virus. Anyway, you can die. So the state has required rabies, of course. Now, the other vaccines for the pet's health is the basic distemper, hepatitis, parvo vaccine. And there's other things in there, and there's lots of vaccines. There's different combinations. Leptospirosis is another component that some veterinarians use, some don't. It's even maybe a little controversial among veterinarians whether to vaccinate for leptospirosis or not.
And what is leptospirosis?
Leptospirosis is a bacteria, spirochete, and it's deadly. I have seen 2 pets in the Sarasota-Bradenton area this year that have died from leptospirosis. And it's part of the, used to be standard part of the old DHLPP, we call it, the L being the leptospirosis. And there's actually new strains of leptospirosis that have come out in the last 10, 15 years that have become important. The original vaccine had 2 strains of leptospirosis. Now there's 4 strains we can vaccinate for.
And they get it from?
It's in the urine of most mammals. And I was even surprised myself. There's a poster that you see sometimes in the veterinarian's office, and I was even surprised how many skunks, foxes, squirrels, deer, just about every mammal, rats, mice, carries. If they have it, they will urinate and the bacteria will be in the urine. So all a pet has to do is walk along, even on the grass, wherever, if there's been wildlife, if there's some contaminated urine, they step in it, they lick it, they get the bacteria. Very, very deadly, often causes kidney and liver failure.
Now, this year we were cautioned, and you did caution Dante's Den, about the doggy pneumonia/virus.
Certainly talk to your veterinarian because it's regional. Fortunately, in our area of Florida here, in the Sarasota-Bradenton area, I'm not aware of any active cases that have been found, but other parts of Florida I know have had, and there's even some boarding facilities, kenneling facilities that are requiring the vaccine now. So you really have to talk to your local veterinarian, and they will help you with the exposure. Now, if you travel a lot with your pet and you go places around the country, I would probably definitely want to vaccinate. But if you're pretty local and your area's been lucky and you haven't had it, you might slide by without it, but that's something you really need to discuss with your local veterinarian.
Now, other than the legality of the rabies, should we really vaccinate?
Oh, of course. You're trying to protect your pet from deadly viruses. I mean, when I was a veterinary student back in like 1980, parvovirus in dogs was becoming one of the major killers of puppies. And they actually had to create the parvo vaccine. I think in the late 70s they did. And so these are viruses that mutate and change, of course, but the known ones that are common that we can protect our pets from, we vaccinate for. So yes, to protect your pet, I mean, the state literally does not care if your dog dies of distemper. That's on you. The state only cares if your pet, can't get rabies and you can't get rabies. But lots of viruses that are deadly that you should vaccinate for.
So if you want to have your pets vaccinated, do consult your veterinarians and take care of these guys. We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. Zeus and I will be back here again next week with even more animals and some wild adventures. Until then, thanks for watching. What do you think? Huh?
But like I said, they're not a pet for everybody.
Now,
but he's our companion. I wouldn't call him a pet.
Yeah.
He's more like having a kid.
Yeah, well, yes, that you don't have to send to college.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
I'm around here.
He's looking at you because of food. Zeus, come on. Come on. He's taken this celeb business a little too hard. Well, he's going to be a very handsome guy for the leader.
He is. He's going to be a handsome guy, and he will be.
Yes, I got a lever kiss.
Neutered.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
He's talking about neutering.
I know.
Yeah. And I'm getting a lot of love here.